We're about to get controversial today. I'm in line at Costco gas. I saw 333 pass by me. Since I'm going to be here for a while, I just figured that this was the time. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Lauren. I am your resident intuitive baddie. And we're going to be talking about gender politics. So first, I want to make the disclaimer. I do have notes. I have quite the set of notes, by the way. Came prepared. But I want to make a disclaimer that I have love for all people. I have no problem with any adult that has full knowledge of the risks and consequences that come with transitioning. It's your body, your vessel. You do what you want. And I want to shout out Maddie Mo, Mogul Moneybags here on YouTube, for starting the discussion, because this topic has been so heavily censored and has so much cancel culture surrounding it. It's been such a hard thing to talk about, to question at all. So I want to commend her bravery and putting her video out and just speaking her mind, because it inspired me to do so. This has been a topic that's been on my mind for many years, and I specifically didn't put it out just because it felt like, what was the point if it was going to fall on deaf ears? But as she said in her video, I feel as though we are reaching a point in time where there is fatigue around the stipulations and the stigma against just questioning it. So yeah, check her video out as well. Um, well, to start us off, I am going to give you what I guess how I see our experience here on Earth. So just so that you can better understand my standpoint on this topic. I believe that we are all a part of the same source energy. Source, universe, God, however it resonates for you. The it's an omniscient being that is all that is. Everything that is here on this earth physically, and all that we can't see. It's everything. It's formless. And we are splintered off from this source energy. We're splintered off so that we can experience, or so we can have physical form in order to experience limitation, contrast. Let me turn. And ourselves, by being able to interact with each other. Because as an all-knowing, omniscient, formless being that is, in other words, perfect, the only desire you would have is to experience what you cannot experience as such a being. And that can only be done through creating a realm or realms where limitation exists and where we are divided. So that's what I believe that we are. And this is the would I say the ideology? This is the beliefs of many systems such as Buddhism, Taoism, and a lot of other ancient teachings that you can get into. That being said, we all contain masculine and feminine energy, not just us as humans, everything that is living on this earth. That includes the trees, all objects. And the name of the game in the game of life is to get our masculine and feminine energies into balance. What we want is to have them in balance and to know when to tap into them appropriately. So in understanding my view and understanding that at the end of the day, we aren't our bodies, we aren't our thoughts, we aren't our emotions. What we are is the awareness that is the consciousness that is observing this experience. We are light beings. So, knowing that, and also with the understanding that if you resonate with past lives, reincarnation, that we this isn't our only lifetime. It's hard for me to wrap my head around as to why someone would need to medically transition their body, because our experience is just, if you take a, sorry, let me get back in. Let me jump back in. Okay, so going into the core question of what I'm even asking. When I was younger and gender politics was a topic, it was more surrounding girls don't have to like pink or play with Barbie dolls, and boys don't have to love cars and fighting and all this like macho masculine stuff. But it seems like the culture and the message that the culture is promoting now is completely opposite to that. Because to understand, uh, by the understanding of what transitioning is for, is somebody resonating with the energy that is opposite to the one they were born, or to the body parts that they have, and wanting the external to match their internal. And I just don't understand why the external has to match for somebody to express with the energy they feel more inclined to. Because again, if we all have feminine and masculine energy within us and we resonate, or we lean to one to more, it shouldn't matter what body you're in to be able to express it, aside from the fact that you associate the external with the internal, which, by the logic of the original core message of gender politics, doesn't need to be. It doesn't have to, they are not binary. So, in knowing that, making the change is really a cosmetic change. And I, I don't blame anybody who understands that and wants to go through with that. What I kind of see it being an equivalent to is, if in the future I wanted a boob job because, I had kids, or kids, I have a kid, and my boobs aren't what they used to be, and I want to feel more confident in my body, and if I wanted my image to kind of represent more, I don't know how I looked before, then yeah, if I get a boob job, then that's a cosmetic change. That's something that is purely individual to me. And if there's any risks, because I know that there's things that can happen, like the bag bursts or whatever, that's on me. And I feel as though that's pretty much the same thing when it comes to transitioning, because I'm kind of getting ahead of myself in terms of the notes, but um, maybe I'll just cut that out. Anyways, it's a cosmetic change. So I fully support anybody who is an adult with a fully developed frontal lobe that chooses this. Again, so long as you understand what are the risks that come with transitioning. Where my biggest problem is is that it feels like the people that this is impacting the most in our generation is anybody with an impressionable mind, meaning preteens and teens. And I say this because at the age of 10, 11, 12, or even before that, you're already going through bouts of body dysmorphia because of puberty. You have your body as one way for maybe like a decade or so. And then all of a sudden, your body changes. You start experiencing physical changes, whether that be you get your period, your boobs come in. As a male, you start waking up with morning wood. I don't know what guys go through. Um, and then you also experience hormonal changes, mood swings, and oftentimes this is the time also where you start to have a little bit more sentience. You start to see that you are a small speck in this big world, and you have all of these identity issues because you wonder what your place is in this world, and oftentimes that brings depression. So to have the ideology presented to you that maybe these things that are completely natural and temporary feelings are rooted from needing to transition because you're stuck in the wrong body is dangerous to me. Let me continue on with the notes. It's reaching these people at a time that's very vulnerable. I've gone through this. I know my friends have gone through this. I'm sure you've gone through this. Everyone that has gone through puberty has had some form of this, no matter how much understanding you have. And I also find it so concerning that at a point in time they wanted to push that schools were able to go around the parents to encourage and facilitate social and medical shifts for these children before they they've even experienced enough life to really understand if this is a decision they actually want to make. So a good example of this is this girl named Chloe Cole. She wrote a book about her experience, but to sum it up, when she was 12, she started to experience gender dysmorphia. So she was led to believe that transitioning was her solution. So she started hormone blockers at about 13, hormone blockers and testosterone at 13, got a double mastectomy at 15, which, if you don't know what that is, that's when you chop off your breasts. And then at 16, she actually started to regret the decision and then started to detransition. And now she's an activist against against medical providers and just the systems that encouraged this for her, or encourage sorry let me for encouraging irreversible irreversible steps before she was even an adult. As again, all of this happened in such a short span of time. That was about what, 4 years of her life, from being led to believing that she was transgender to having the surgery and then recognizing that actually that's not what she wanted. And because of this decision, she has permanent losses now. For one, if she were to have children in the future, she would not be able to breastfeed. And then there's other physical, long lasting physical complications that she's going to have for the rest of her life. So, again, she doesn't even hold her parents accountable for this, or she doesn't hold it against her parents because her parents were socially influenced, even though her parents didn't completely agree with it. Like any parent would want, they wanted their child to be happy. So they went along with it. They went along with what society said. And that's why she more so holds the professionals more accountable. Because yeah, why push this, why push something that you, why push this type of change so early in life? It's just a clear illustration of why it's so dangerous for this ideology to come into contact with minors. Mo, when she made her video, she talked about how this is an attack on women, and I absolutely agree with that as well. This is something that my dance teacher has actually mentioned over the years. One of the reasons why I I started to question this at all. Um, like she had said in her video, you know, the ability to go through pregnancy, labor, the capacity to actually give birth, these are things that are uniquely, are these sorry, these things are powerful, and they are unique to the female experience. And I'm talking to you as somebody who has gone through this. I have created the life and birthed the life. It's one of the most painful things a person can go through in life. So to reduce women to birthing person, not even like, oh my god, and just separating the reproductive capacity from the definition of what it means to be a woman is just, it's devaluing our abilities, our capabilities, our powers. And in saying that, I don't mean that every single woman should is supposed to give birth and is needs to embark on this journey. It's up to the individual to choose, but it's even having the capacity, it's just the ability, having the ability, having a period every month. Because it's like, to, yeah, to separate that from the experience is degrading. It just shouldn't be erased from the experience. And Mo also touched upon how if a male transitions, just because they change all the external parts doesn't mean they don't still have the inner workings of a man. And I want to kind of touch on the physicality parts of this too. Because, for example, in sports, male puberty creates long lasting advantages. They have strength, more bone density, increase muscles, increase lung capacity. So a male who transitions retains most of these things. I believe this is depending on when in time they transition, because I think I have read something um about if they transition before puberty, it might be different. But like I had said in the last part of my argument, I don't think that you should be transitioning that early anyways. And a good example of this is the whole Leah Thomas controversy. It was an NCAA swim competition, and they were the first transgender woman to win in that category. But the controversy sparked because how could it be fair that they won when they have the advantages of a physical man? And when you look at the reverse, when you look at if a male were to transition to, sorry, if a female were to transition into a male and compete in these sports, you don't get the same kind of it doesn't create, what does that say? It doesn't create the same disadvantage, by nature, a naturally born female is going to be weaker than a naturally born male. And of course, there's anomalies depending on culture, or sorry, race, and what have you, and then like physical attributes of the parents. But for the majority, that is how it is. So we need to be able to separate that fairness when it from the fairness that comes with the physical things like sports, from the social acceptance of these people, which I feel like is where the movement started and when it was plausible. It was, I think, when it comes to, if somebody transitions, I don't think they should be ridiculed and hated on for doing so. But at the same time, there are certain things that you have to they have to recognize that they are opting out of or isolating themselves from by making this choice. It's part of the risks and the consequences, aside from the lasting physical ones. So I guess my deeper concern is this actually helping the individual, or is this all to benefit a specific industry? Seeing as when you do this surgery, which is an expensive surgery, you also are have a lifelong dependence on the opposing hormones, or yeah. And then there isn't as much talk about how messing with your hormones affects you. I know somebody right now who has a daughter that feels as though they should be transitioning and is on hormones and testosterone, that was recently diagnosed for bipolar disorder because the testosterone is making them angry, more angry, and they're not able to control their feelings. It's like there's all of these things that they don't talk about, and they don't tell you about, because it's they're not marketing it for the individual. And on that note, there's no guarantee that changing your external physical appearance is going to actually help whatever it is that you're feeling internally. It's the way that I think about it is, when I was younger, and I have a video of this. This is one of my earliest videos of when I was depressed in high school. I attached it to self-harming and bulimia, because at the time that's kind of how they were promoting what depression was, or where depression stems from. So when I was having those feelings, I attached it to those things in order to have a reason as to why I was depressed. It wasn't never really made known to me that these feelings are more or less normal parts of the human experience at that age. And again, like, just like Mo said in her video, if the goal is to switch your experience from a male to female experience, female to male, you still never will get the full experience. For example, like Mo had said in her video, if you are a male and you cut off the thing you pee with and you construct a vagina, you still can't give birth out of it. Even if with advancing technology, they find a way that you're able to go through pregnancy, it's going to be way different from the experience of somebody who is a naturally born woman that is able to create the life on her own. It's going to have to be dependent on technology. And vice versa, if you are a female and you attach a penis to yourself, you are not going to have the same experience as somebody with a natural penis that has the natural nerve endings. This is on, and you know what's so funny? It's this is something that I thought of when I was a teenager. When I just remember when I was having like existential crisis and like thinking about how I will never know, at least in this lifetime, what it's like to have a penis, what it's like to have an erection, and I think that's something that we should be fine with because I truly believe we choose who we're going to be and what we're going to go through when we come down here. So it's almost as if the experience of being a physical being is being hijacked by a particular industry. And I just think that people should be more informed before they make such a big decision because again, it's irreversible. You make the decision. If you decide later, and again, I want to go back to what I said about how we are not our thoughts, we are not our emotions, and we are not our body because all of those things change. You are not in the same body as you were when you were 5. You don't have the same emotions that you did last week. The thoughts that you're having now are different from the thoughts you were having this morning. These are all things that are always changing. So there's no guarantee that the way that you feel about this is the way that you're going to feel about this later. And when you make these changes to your body, you don't know if that's shortening your lifespan or if it's going to be impacting your physical experience in a long-term way, like it did for Chloe. So all that saying, all that, or all that to say, I think the real work is, as it always is internal. It's being able to accept that, hey, if I, as a male, I resonate with feminine energy. I want to find a way to express it without having to change my body, without having to change my physical experience. I think those who do drag, though, there's so many, like all the gay people who are very, very feminine. Like, I think these are really strong, powerful people because they are just being who they want to be, and they're not subscribing to what society is telling them they need to look like in order to be. Yeah, so it's a cosmetic change. If you want to make that change, again, fully functional adult, if you understand the consequences, that's completely fine for you. Do what you want. But what I am advocating for and what I think we should be protecting is the developing children and teens from these irreversible medicalizations. And I don't think, and that shouldn't be seen as hate. That and protecting women's spaces as well. I think going back to the whole men retain the physical strength. Sorry, this one's a tangent. I don't really understand why, as somebody who is transitioning from male to female, if you understand what women have gone through over the years in relation to men, knowing that you were naturally born one, why you feel that your feelings override that of a natural woman who fears for her safety, who fears for her children that are in the washroom. It's like if you truly understand the experience of a woman, and or if you not understand, but if you truly resonate with it, and if you're truly on the side of feminine rights, it should, that that being a boundary shouldn't surprise you, and you should just be pushing for more gender neutral spaces. But to want to impede on where a natural woman feels safe, or a natural born woman feel safe is selfish. And I think it goes back to what Mo was saying um how men think. And yeah, just this like whole thing of, or like how it go kind of goes back to the patriarchy in a sense. But anyways, I digress. We should be allowed to critically think about these things. All of these hard topics, you should be able to raise these questions and ask them without feeling like you're going to be alienated or shut down without any type of discussion. I think that anything that is like that, anything where you're not allowed to critically think about it without some sort of backlash or being labeled as somebody who is hateful for just asking questions, I think these those are topics that are red flags, and we should, if anything, look more deeply into things like that where it feels like you're not allowed to critically think. Food for thought. So I'd love to know what your thoughts are on it. If you have experiences that you'd want to share, so long as you keep it grounded and respectful, compassionate towards everybody, because everybody deserves a level of compassion. And yeah, if you like the thoughts that come out of my brain, feel free to subscribe. If you are somebody who would like one on one work with me, whether that be through tarot or coaching, you can find me in the description and look at that timing. It's time for me to go get gas. So until next time,